All right, so for today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a few different stories ranging from crime to trade to logistics, and none of it is looking good for Canada. So let's get into it. Now, the first story that we're going to be taking a look at is probably going to get this video throttled in the algorithm due to the subject matter, but I have to cover it because it's absolutely wild. It's coming out of the National Post, and it says the non-citizen shouldn't get sentence discounts for their crimes. And it goes on to say an Ontario resident tried to buy sex from what he thought was an underage individual. He was given conditional discharge to help him stay in Canada. And as we go into this article, it talks about this person, Kant, 30 years old, made a mistake of arranging to have sex with the underage individual at a Holiday Inn for $140. Only when he got there, the 15-year-old turned out to be a cop, as this was a operation to catch predators. He was arrested in the hotel, but he won't receive a criminal record for his action, in part because of his immigration status. On June 25th, Kant was sentenced to conditional discharge for committing an indecent act. For 3 months, he will be under house arrest, during which he can go shopping for 3 hours every Sunday, attend religious services, medical appointments, and travel to and from work. 12 months of probation will follow afterwards. Whether Ontario will appeal remains to be an open question, as the province won't reveal its plan until after July 25th. It goes on to say, originally from India's Gujarat state, Kant came to Canada in 2019 for school, specifically a Master's of Engineering. He finished in 2021 to obtain permanent residency in 2023. Also in 2023, he was married to his wife, who is currently here on a work visa set to expire in September, and this was an important consideration for the judge. Now, he's married, yet was seeking some sort of relations with an underage individual, but they claim it was a mistake. Okay, then. It then goes on to, this is a quote from the judge. Mr. Kant is a permanent resident seeking Canadian citizenship and professional licensing. A conviction would not only delay his citizenship by 4 years, but could also prevent him from sponsoring his wife and obtaining his engineering license. These immigration and professional consequences are far more severe than those faced by an offender in a similar previous case who was a Canadian citizen with no such vulnerabilities. Courts have recognized that such consequences can justify a more lenient sentence, including a discharge. So if a Canadian was caught looking to have some sort of interaction with a underage individual, and this cop was the one that arrested them, they would get a harder punishment than the guy doing the same thing who's not from here, simply because all of these chain of events would happen, which again is not our problem. You attempted to commit a crime, you should do the time, regardless of who it is. This is called two-tier system right here. It says Kant would be getting Kant would be getting a higher sentence if he were a Canadian, which is why the sentencing practice is so deeply unfair. The judge had also found a lot of good in the accused, noting his above average IQ, which clearly he didn't use, his first time offender status, his lack of mental illness or criminal record, and his modest, reserved nature, and his low likelihood of reoffending. Yet it was proven that Kant had even said to this fake 15-year-old that we could do this a lot depending on how it goes, meaning it would be on a regular basis. It wouldn't be a low likelihood of reoffending. He is going to reoffend depending on how well this went. He openly admitted that. Now, this goes on to say, taking all of this into the account, the judge concluded, a conviction would lead to severe collateral consequences, such as jeopardizing his immigration status, delaying his citizenship, and preventing him from sponsoring his wife, which would likely result in their separation. These consequences would be disproportionate to the offense and would undermine his rehabilitative progress. You have got to be kidding me. They need to get rid of this judge, send this guy packing. Who cares what the consequences are? His wife should separate him if he was searching for some sort of fun time with an underage individual who, again, didn't exist in this scenario, but who's to say that it wouldn't happen in another time? This is absolutely crazy that this is an actual story. A judge made this decision based on all of this garbage. Our justice system needs to be completely reformed because there are so many bad actors. I mean, take a look at this story that's coming out of Calgary, where a family is being terrorized by their neighbor with hatchets, verbal attacks, and just being constantly berated by this guy, and the cops are not doing anything.
A Calgary family is concerned after a neighbor that they usually get along with was caught on camera holding weapons, destroying their property and shouting racial slurs. While police say it is a mental health matter, the family thinks police and political leaders need to do more. Alicia Fieldberg reports.
A peaceful neighborhood in southeast Calgary is where Joffrey Davila and his family have lived for 12 years. But a neighbor's bizarre behavior has them thinking about moving.
This is really home for me, so it's kind of hard.
When his truck was vandalized, he installed security cameras. Later, video captured a neighbor on the driveway holding hatchets and shouting racial slurs before chopping into their planters. Davila called 911 but says the responding officer called it a mental health incident and never followed up.
I just don't want someone to get hurt. I don't want him to get hurt or he can hurt someone else.
Last week, he called 911 again after video caught the neighbor kicking Davila's garage. Then again that night when they woke to loud sounds and saw this video of the neighbor with hatchets at the front door, once again shouting slurs.
Oh, it's terrifying. I was shaking. I don't really get scared, but that one scares me.
He gave an officer his videos, and days later, after CTV called police, he got a text saying police are still investigating. CPS says it received 4 complaints, but says, while the behavior is concerning to police, there is currently insufficient evidence to support criminal charges. Officers work closely with mental health specialists.
Once an individual is then supported and addresses that, these behaviors should be mitigated, but it's tough. I do emphasize with it the situations.
But one legal expert says that's not good enough.
When you have a neighbor standing in front of your front door with 2 hatchets spewing racial epithets, that's an offense in the Criminal Code of Canada. Police are dealing with fire here. The police have got to up their game here.
So they want to simply claim that this is a mental health problem and that if he had the proper help, he would be fine. What's it going to take? Does he have to actually use those hatchets on an individual for you to think that he is a problem? This guy would have been locked up in an asylum a long time ago, and we need to open those back up and get them running again because there are too many individuals like this causing constant crime and chaos. And our government is doing diddly squat. I mean, we just had the Prime Minister coming out and endorsing our Minister of Public Safety, who was caught endorsing terrorists. And we also then have Sean Fraser, who's the new Justice Minister, who's the guy who's screwed up immigration as well as housing. Like, we have the most incompetent people, and like I said, even our own prime minister says, "Oh yeah, he's explained it, and I have full confidence in him."
Daniel Dove, Global News. Prime Minister, Global News has an investigation has unveiled that the public safety minister wrote letters before he was the public safety minister on behalf of a man and his immigration status to come to Canada, even though this man was a member of a listed suspected terrorist group. The public safety minister is in charge of border security, obviously very important to any trade deal going forward. What confidence do you have in the public safety minister with your reaction to this, sir?
Thank you for the question. Look, the public safety minister has been transparent about the details of that situation, and he has my confidence. Thank you.
And I gotta say, this is sounding very similar to when Peter Chang was caught advocating for the Conservative member to be captured and brought to the Chinese consulate, and Mark Carney said that he was had full confidence in that individual as well.
Kenzie Gray with Global News. Paul Chang, one of your candidates in Markham, talked about turning over a Conservative candidate to the Chinese consulate to receive a bounty placed on him by the Chinese Communist Party. Can you explain why you've not dropped him as a Liberal candidate?
Thank you for the question. Look, the comments were deeply offensive. This is a terrible lapse of judgment by Mr. Chang. He has apologized for those comments. This is a person of integrity who served this community, his community, as a senior police officer for, as I said, more than a quarter century. He's made a terrible lapse in judgment. He's made an apology for that. It's also an individual who has family in Hong Kong. He's under no illusions about the situation there, the situation in broader China. He's made those apologies. He's made them directly to the individual concerned. He's made them directly to me. He has my confidence. Thank you.
But again, this is clearly what the Liberals voted for. Now, moving to the next story, which is about trade, the White House came out again targeting Canada, saying that we are very difficult to do trades with, and even our finance minister, he's not helping the situation. Take a look.
Last month, one more if I could. Last month, the Canadian Prime Minister said the President had agreed to a July 21st deadline to sort of work towards a trade agreement. That's 4 days from now. Could there be a trade agreement with Canada in 4 days?
Well, look, we'll see. The trade team continues to be very active in our conversations and discussions with Canada. The President himself has said, unfortunately, our neighbors to the north have been pretty difficult to deal with when it comes to matters on trade. But in trade, generally speaking, as you know, 25 countries have received letters thus far from the President directly with his big, beautiful signature on them, from Japan to Korea, South Africa, Kazakhstan, Malaysia, just a few countries, and Canada also received a letter for 35%. With that said, if countries want to have legitimate further discussions, the Trump administration and the President's trade team are willing to have further talks, but these letters these countries have been receiving are the deals. And as the President has said, those deals will be made. They are tailor-made to each and every country based on the United States' concerns and what's in the best interest of the American worker and the American people.
So again, that's all on the heels of just in a few days for the July 21st deadline that Carney imposed, even though Donald Trump has kind of extended it to August 1st. But this just came out of Bloomberg saying that the Canada finance chief downplays odds of reaching tariff-free deal with the U.S., which we kind of heard a little bit about that the past few days if you've been paying attention. But it goes on to say Canada's finance minister signaled that any trade deal with the U.S. is likely to include at least some tariffs, and repeated that the country's dairy and poultry protections won't be on the table during negotiations.
So we're going to double down in our effort to negotiate the best possible deal for Canada and Canadian workers. At the same time, we're certainly going to make sure we have measures to protect our industry and our workers. And we're going to build Canada. You know, the Prime Minister has been quoted as saying, you know, we can give ourselves far more than anyone can take away from us. And that's why you've seen that kind of sentiment in Canada to build more infrastructure, to diversify the market, because, you know, Canada is a large G7 country. You know, we're the only G7 country with a free trade agreement with all other G7 nations. So in a sense, we are in a great position to diversify. If you look at the pillar of growth, Canada offers a number of opportunities, and it's obvious when you talk to colleagues here at the G20.
In every sort of negotiation, there's a stick and a carrot side of the negotiation. On the carrot side of things, are you willing to talk about dairy duties, or is that a red line for Canada? And on the stick side, do digital taxes come back, digital services taxes come back if you fail to get a deal?
Well, we've been clear from the get-go that the issue around supply management is off the table, so that's step one. When it comes to the digital service tax, we have made our position clear. We have heard from the President. We always anticipated that'd be part of a larger discussion.
Now, in my opinion, this should definitely be something on the chopping block, especially if we're trying to get some negotiations happening. Trump has been very explicit about this being an issue for him. And it's weird that Champlain will acknowledge that supply management has been an issue, but they're not going to do anything about it. And that DST was an issue, but then they did something about that. So he's clearly trying to pick and choose. And even the food professor put out a poll. Almost 2,000 people actually voted on this, and it says, do you think Canada should maintain its commitment to supply management in the face of growing geopolitical tensions with countries like the United States? And an overwhelming amount of people said no. 86.6% voted no in this little poll that this one gentleman did. Now, there's been many conversations about it. There's actually a video that's really good here from Forum Daily News that talks about it. It's about 10 minutes long, but great information. I'll keep a link in the description below on that. But this is something that we should get rid of because it's not benefiting even Canadians in the long run. But now to the final story that I kind of want to cover, and this is about the Bill C5. The tensions that's been going on between the indigenous groups and Mark Carney, the government. And again, we had said that this bill is a big problem. There's too many sweeping powers that they tried to implement with this. And we now have an interview with the lawyer who's putting forward the lawsuit against Canada in regards to the 9 nations. And this is what she had to say yesterday.
Thank you so much for joining us. You heard a little bit of the opening address from the Prime Minister. What's your reaction to what you heard? You were obviously listening to the entire speech as well.
Anger, disappointment, disgust. It isn't true, first of all, that it's built into the law. If the federal government and Prime Minister Carney really mean what they say, then they wouldn't put in these absolute power provisions in the law that provide cabinet unfettered and uncontrolled power. That's what's written in the law. The actual content of the law itself, which we have to go by, says that cabinet has unfettered, unrestricted power to approve national interest projects without needing to apply a whole bunch of other federal legislation to them. Legislation that would protect the environment, that would carry out assessments to understand what impacts might be to the environment and humans, so we know the kinds of decisions we're making and the implications and how to minimize or avoid them. That would waive the requirement for a number of permit applications to be applied for and conditions to be put on those. That's Section 22 of that Federal Building Canada Act. And Section 6 is a bias section that deems that all projects put forward are going to be approved. So it takes away the no alternative. And so, no, that it's a bunch of political propaganda. It's also very disappointing and maddening because the Crown governments think that they throw a bunch of money at something, which is really what he's saying, that First Nations should and are going to walk away satisfied.
And it is all just political propaganda, because if you remember during the campaign, Carney kept saying we are going to be moving at speeds that have never been done before in this country. Yet then comes out and admits that there's not even one project on this so-called list of national projects right now. And we still have this 2-year work-through period before anything can actually be implemented. So where's the speed? This guy's been on so many vacations. He's not meeting with the premiers until next week on the 22nd. Like, these guys are not getting any sort of balls rolling. And we have the July 21st deadline coming up. We have the August 1st deadline coming up. Like, I just don't see how Canada is going to survive in the next few months, if not years, with this government doing what they're doing. But as always, love to hear from you guys. Let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. Don't forget, please hit the subscribe button, like, comment, share, do all that fun stuff. And as always, I will catch you guys on the next one. Thanks so much.